The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and here are your horoscopes for today, the 25th day of the year, 2009, in the month of March. Aries, although you may not be aware of it, someone has been admiring you from afar. Someone could be reading more into your words and glances than you intend. Today you might discover you have a lot more in common with someone you've known for a while, but just haven't been able to get to know. It could be the start of a major relationship. Taurus, a good friend comes to your aid today in a show of true solidarity. Knowing just who you can trust and why is important to you and makes you realize just how lucky you are. Likewise, a reliable friend who is always there for the people you love. Gemini, someone behind the scenes at working is looking out for you, probably much more than you realize. It may be this person has a crush on you, or maybe, perhaps, he or she wishes to be like you. Don't turn a blind eye to the situation, whether it is infatuation or admiration. You must deal with it, Gemini. Cancer, an especially important dream could be making you feel a little off balance today. Try to probe the dream for additional meaning. Write down all the fragments you can remember. Dreams can provide rich information about ourselves, our cores, if we decide to pursue their messages. Leo, hold on to those intuitive feelings from yesterday, but don't extract everything into your personal life. An ill-timed statement could hit home, affecting a close relationship and perhaps hurting it. Forgiving without forgetting is the best course of action. Virgo, don't hold back from criticizing a colleague if it is the right thing to do today. The person has been gold bricking for a long time, and worse yet, has been taking credit for some of your efforts and ideas. Let a supervisor know what is going on. Libra, if you're single, you may find yourself in a romantic quandary today. It could be that there are two objects of your affection and you cannot decide which one to pick. If you have a significant other, expect a slight difference of opinion, but it won't amount to much. Scorpio, expressing an honest opinion could backfire today when a comment you make is overheard by an authority figure. Sagittarius, your attention turns to finances today. As a rule, you are a practical sort of person who makes careful plans. Yet, you have a side of you that takes some risks with money now and then. If you have a little bit of money put aside for a rainy day, this may be the time to spend it. Capricorn, this morning, expect a snag or two relating to the commute to work today. Communication matters should take up most of the afternoon, with phone messages flooding your machine. Take care of your replies. Don't forget, not to reply is the worst thing that you could ever do. And Aquarius, you hold the times very dear to your heart because you are a very emotional person with strengths that need to be brought out and strengthened each and every day. Schedule something enjoyable today that involves family, friends, and neighbors. And for Pisces, food, fun, and frolicking head the agenda today, Pisces. Organizing a family picnic, if the weather permits, is a good idea. Otherwise, get all the family members involved in creating an indoor feast. Stress conversions and sharing of opinions during the meal is a good idea. And begin planning that vacation now. There are your horoscopes with the compliments of Lady Elaine. You can always go to www.xstrology.net/daily horoscope. htm to read your entire horoscope, which also includes your fortune astrological numbers for today, your financial outlook for today, and your compatible sign for today. When I come back from this 2-minute commercial break, we're going to be speaking to Robert Liparulo. We're going to be talking to Robert about his new book, Deadlock. That's coming up this hour here in the X Zone. 1-877-528-8255 is toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network. Don't go away. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, so I hope that your day today is a very happy, prosperous one. My guest this hour is Rob Liparulo. We're going to be talking about his new book, Deadlock. Deadlock is the kind of action-packed thriller ride that has made our special guest this hour, Robert Liparulo, one of the most sought-after novelists in Hollywood. In his highly anticipated new thriller, Robert draws on his own background as a journalist for the inspiration behind Deadlock's hard-charging lead character, newspaper reporter John Hutch Hutchinson. Hutch discovers that military industrialist Brendan Page is using a private army to settle his own scores. Page's threat to keep Hutch quiet goes terribly wrong, and Hutch's young son is kidnapped. While a lone man stands little chance against the best black ops soldiers ever issued M16s, Hutch manages to survive longer than Page anticipated. Now, as far as Hutch is concerned, high-tech helmets and machine guns are nothing compared to a man determined to save his son. It's a lesson he sets out to teach Page, and one that he can only hope works well in the real world as it does in his heart. In the tradition of strong, resourceful lead characters like Officer John McClane in Die Hard, John Rambo, and Jack Bauer from television's 24, Hutch is a quintessential, quick-thinking man of action that guy wants to be like, and women want to be with him. His nail-biting adventures in Robert Liparulo's Deadlock will leave readers breathless and on the edge of their seats. Joining me now is the author of Deadlock, Robert Liparulo. And Robert, welcome to the X Zone.
Thanks for having me.
All right, tell us about Deadlock. What was your inspiration?
It was the news report from 2007 from Baghdad that the Blackwater privatized army and the guards who were over there shot up a square, killing 17 people, 14 of which were deemed innocent bystanders. And it just made me wonder how people, soldiers, could be that ruthless. And there were reports about them just kind of standing around afterward, picking their teeth with toothpicks, things like that. And it really made me wonder how somebody can get to that point in their life where they have such disregard for human life. And so it just sparked the storytelling part of me, and I thought, okay, here's a Blackwater type organization, and Blackwater claims to provide the best soldiers in the world. And what does that mean if you're going to be the best soldier? It means that you're going to kill better, and you're going to protect better, and you're going to guard better and defend better. And how would killing better look? Or how would you get a person to a point where they're killing better than military soldiers? And so what I tend to do in my books is I take current technology, current situations in the world, and I kind of project it out a couple of years and say, okay, here's what it might be like in a few years. And so I designed for my book, I designed a virtual reality helmet that these soldiers wear, and they're very similar to the goggles that you'll often see Blackwater soldiers wearing. And what I have happening through the visors of these helmets in my book is that reality is being manipulated for the soldier. So we know, for example, that soldiers find it easier to shoot at men than women, at adults than children, at people who don't look like them over people who do look like them. And what this visor will do is, no matter who they're shooting at, it will make them look like the perfect target.
Robert, in your opinion, do we really need people like the private armies for hire, like Blackwater, out there working? And if, who gives them the carte blanche to do whatever they want?
Definitely two different questions there. I do think that we probably need something like this, simply because our defense budgets have been lowered. Mm-hmm. We have a smaller army. Most countries in the world have smaller armies than they used to have, and there are times when we may need more boots in the field, such as with the surge, where we put 20,000 more boots in Iraq, and it turned the tide for us there. Well, if we don't have the soldiers in our military for that, we need to call on outsourcing for that, and that's what a Blackwater-like organization does. Where I think where we need to really change things is in the accountability side, and this addresses your second question. What's really happening is because they're somewhat new in our contemporary society, the mercenaries. Yeah, even though they have a long history.
Because that's basically what Blackwater people are mercenaries.
They deny that they are, but if you look at it's semantics. If you really look at what they're doing, they're acting as mercenaries, especially when you look at the fact that Blackwater has about 20% of their soldiers are recruited from other countries. And so you have soldiers from other countries fighting in America's war. That's a mercenary.
Well, it is in my dictionary. I don't know about Blackwater's, but
so it's what's happening is we just need to know that there's accountability, and if there are war crimes that happen that are attributed to outsourced soldiers, private soldiers, or guards, as they prefer. I did one interview, and I called them combatants, and a caller called in and said, "They're guards, they're not combatants." And I said, as soon as they pick up a rifle and start shooting, they're combatants. Yeah. So exactly. A lot of semantics going on.
But why? Why does Blackwater seem to be able to get away with murder, where if it was any other group, man, they would be held on the carpet, there would be charges laid, and it seems that Blackwater, for some reason, is able to get away with a lot more than any other organization?
There are a few others that are smaller than Blackwater, but that are doing exactly the same thing, and there have been some charges against them as well, and there's some question about whether they'll ever see trial. The big issue is that they were hired by the State Department to guard dignitaries, not by the Defense Department. And because of that, they're not under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
So they're under the same. They operate the same as the CIA would.
In a way, yes. Yeah. The problem there also is when they went over to Iraq, part of their contract stipulated that they would be granted immunity from any crimes committed in Iraq. Otherwise, they were afraid that if they did have to use their weapons and for lethal force, they would be charged by the Iraqi government as murderers, and so they received immunity. So they have immunity for their actions.
Well, shouldn't they be held responsible?
Absolutely. I think they were afraid of justifiable shootings being called murder because it's on Iraqi soil. And so if a government changes, if the Iraqi government changes and they're looking for a scapegoat, it'd be easy to say, let's charge this group of people who weren't even part of the U.S. military.
But they're not part of the U.S. military. They're sanctioned by the State Department. They're not accountable to any legal jurisdiction.
Right. Now that's changing. The Congress is really looking into how are we going to have jurisdiction. Who's going to have jurisdiction for any crimes that these people might commit? And
they very well should.
Well, yeah, definitely. I'm amazed that they're just talking about it now. They said, hey, we need some soldiers. Well, here are the best soldiers in the world. They've got guns. They'll kill anything. Send them over. And nobody said, well, wait a minute. Where's the chain of command? Who
Exactly.
are they going to be accountable to?
Looks like they put the cart before the horse on this one.
They did. I do see a need for them. I just think that they need to be accountable for their actions, and they need to have a very stringent chain of command, because oftentimes when they're over in Iraq, nobody knows who their commander is. And really it's the State Department, and there's nobody from the State Department in the field being shot at to watch what these people are doing. And there have been incidences where Blackwater guards have actually drawn their guns on military soldiers and forced them to lay on the ground, and they disarmed U.S. soldiers. And this is one particular case I'm thinking of where there was an accident between a Blackwater vehicle and an Army vehicle, and the Blackwater guards jumped out with their guns, forced the soldiers out, got them on the ground, extracted their vehicle, and then left. And it just amazes me that our U.S. soldiers could be treated that way by private soldiers.
So the mercenaries are taking down the soldiers.
They are. And be careful, because the taking down part doesn't mean they're shooting at our own soldiers, but they are kind of pulling rank, but there's no rank.
Okay, now hold on here. You've got the soldiers who are over there with the blessing, I'll use that very loosely over here, of the military and Congress. Then you've got the mercenaries who are over there and being paid by the State Department.
Right.
Now, why are they over there?
They are over there supposedly to guard dignitaries. Any dignitary that the U.S. needs to guard, whether it's a visiting dignitary or the head of the Occupation Provisional Authority that's over there. Another thing that they do is they are the ones who guard the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, which is the largest embassy in the world.
But isn't that supposed to be the United States Marine Corps?
The Marines. Not enough Marines to do it. So they got the contract to do it.
Wait a sec. We've got mercenaries taking over the jurisdiction that the United States Marine Corps usually has, and that's protecting embassies.
Right.
And these are the very same mercenaries who, at gunpoint, take down, and I'm not talking about shooting here, it's like a felony stop, members of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Yes.
Something is very wrong with this picture.
It is, and it does not boil down to the fact that they are privatized, that they are a privatized soldier or a privatized guard or a privatized army.
Or are they black ops for the CIA?
It would not surprise me. There aren't a lot of reports coming out that they are working for the CIA, even though Blackwater Training Facility, and by the way, Blackwater recently changed its name.
Stand by, Rob. You and I have to take a commercial break. This is very interesting. We'll be back on the other side as the news continues, right here on Talkstar. Don't.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I don't know, if a guy woke up beside me, I don't know what the heck I would do. Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My special guest this hour is Robert Liparulo. We're talking about his new book, Deadlock. First of all, Robert, thanks very much for joining us tonight. It's great having you with us. Before we went to the news, I touched briefly on the possibility of the of Blackwater actually being under the guise of the CIA. Now, are we talking about the same Blackwater that is supposed to be responsible for the security at Area 51 in Nevada?
I believe so. I believe, yes. And they are all over the world. They have squads everywhere. And I think it's really interesting that they're guarding and doing activities, missions on U.S. soil. They sent, for example, 200 people to assist at Katrina, and they were deputized, and they were just flying around in an unmarked car and hopping out and pulling their guns on potential or suspected looters and arresting them, and that gets a little scary when you're talking about private citizens doing that.
It sure does. Now, Rob, in your research for Deadlock, what did you find out about the Blackwater Company?
Well, I did a lot of research into their training, and right now, and where their training is heading, right now a lot of their recruits are former special ops people, maybe SEALs or Army Rangers, those type of people, because then they're starting at a high caliber, and then all they have to do is train a little bit more. Their specialty, or at least it started out this way, is training soldiers and cops and guards, and just their training facilities are incredible. And in talking to people who know the company very well, who came out of that company, who actually went through the process of the company, there's talk about what they're going to do as they keep growing. If they keep growing, they just announced that they were pulling back their security division in favor of the training, just because of all the flack that they've been getting from the guard shooting in Iraq and that type of thing. But if they continued it, they would need to start recruiting fresh blood, as it were, and where would that come from? And that's really where I focused a lot of my research and started postulating what might happen there. And I came up with the conclusion, and it's supported by a lot of people who know the economics of this type of company, and essentially they're going to be getting young kids, and that's what the Army does. They get young kids fresh out of high school, and in Deadlock, what I do is I say that they're watching these online shooter games that the kids are doing, and they're finding the best of the best from there, and then recruiting them into their privatized Army system, and then desensitizing them, and then giving them these helmets that I spoke about, and essentially creating young soldiers who are, at that age, you could almost say that they were raised to kill.
So are we looking at the privatization of law enforcement, privatization of Homeland Security to companies like Blackwater?
Possibly. There was a report just today about Chicago using private security forces as part of their police force, and what that meant. And the flack that people are throwing at Chicago right now is, are these security guards trained? Do they know what they're doing? Are they are they as good as the cops? And I read that and I cringed and I thought, you guys be quiet, because what's going to happen is they're going to say, you're right, we need to have better security if we're going to be hiring privatized people to patrol our streets. Let's go to Blackwater, or let's go get the best of the best. And then what you're going to end up having are these real gung-ho soldier types acting as cops on city streets.
So we're going to have law enforcement agencies patrolling the streets of homegrown, hometown America, who are basically mercenaries.
Yes, that's what. If you project it out, now I think that what's happening, we're right on the cusp of this. We're right at the peak where the outcry is getting louder, and I think that's going to cause Congress to step up and say, we're going to start issuing laws that you cannot hire privatized soldiers or privatized police. They have to have gone through the military academy or the police academy. They have to be deputized in the normal fashion and not as an emergency situation. And, of course, there'll be loopholes that will have to be worked out, but this may take years.
I can just see it now. Stop or I'll shoot.
Right. Well, it is interesting. There were some, if I remember right, there were something like 600 shootings in Iraq that involved dignitaries or guarding dignitaries, and of those, 90% had to do with Blackwater, and of those, Blackwater fired first 98% of the time.
I've heard of proactive policing, but that's ridiculous.
They do have a purpose. I think they just need to be monitored and watched and governed better.
Yeah, they belong in shopping malls without weapons.
I don't think I'd go to the mall if these guys were there.
But I did say without weapons.
I don't know if they need weapons the way these people are trained. I believe it was 87% of them are former special ops soldiers, and who retired from the military and then took the higher paying job at Blackwater or Blackwater's competitors.
I can just see it, like in one of the Die Hard movies, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies. I don't care what you say. I want to see the bag.
I think these people have been, these guards have been likened to the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world, and with the big guns, and they're very well equipped. And that's one thing that's sad, is that we have soldiers over there who don't have the right flak vests or the right weapons. And these guys come over, and that's part of what we're paying for. The U.S. government pays about $1,200 a day per Blackwater guard, and these people are very well equipped and have incredible weapons and incredible body armor. They're provided with, they're making their own armor cars and helicopters, and it's amazing what they're doing.
They make more money than the soldiers do, right?
About 6 times as much.
So what's the incentive for a young man or a young lady to join the armed forces instead of just going right to Blackwater?
Well, that's what I think what's going to happen in the future is the young people who have the disposition for this type of work will seek out a Blackwater organization. Now currently Blackwater wants retired special ops people, but as they grow and those people, and they run out of those people, they're going to start turning toward the younger people and then training them to do that. And I think that's when, for me, that's when it gets scary, is when our young people are going right into a situation like that with Blackwater, because, and this is partly maybe why some soldiers go into the service, and I have a lot of respect for our soldiers.
So do I. So do I.
But soldiers get paid whether they're sitting and waiting on a base in Arizona, or whether they're in a war zone. Blackwater guards get paid only when they're in a war zone. So you have to want to go to war to become a Blackwater guard.
I can just imagine this. Stop! I shot you. It's as funny as my background is law enforcement.
Okay.
All right, and I must tell you that when I hear stories about Blackwater having more authority than law enforcement agencies, better equipped, they don't have the rules of conduct that a police officer or a member of the military has. And it seems that these guys are impervious to any judicial system. Something is drastically wrong with our legislation, and why hasn't the government stepped in and say, wait a minute, hold on here. Yeah, it may have worked for the last administration.
Right.
But this administration is saying, we the people don't need a paramilitary or parapolice force.
Well, it's interesting. The State Department stated that they would not renew Blackwater's contract in Iraq after its May end date, and that they said that in February, and this month, in March, they just extended it to September. Now, I expected that, because I don't think it's that easy to simply say, get out of there, guys.
Exactly.
We need to find the replacements, and I kind of sat back and thought, okay, how long is it going to be before the administration goes, wait a minute, we're going to pull everybody out, who's guarding the embassy, or who's guarding these people?
Well, let's put the Marines back to where they belong, and that's guarding embassies.
Exactly, and the embassy takes a lot of guards. It requires 1,000 guards to guard an embassy that size. But we have it. I mean, the Marine Corps is not it's the smallest of our armed forces, but still, we have a lot of Marines.
Sure do, and their reputation and their code of honor, certainly outweighs anything that Blackwater could even anticipate.
That's true.
Now, at these embassies, do they wear uniforms, and if so, what uniforms do they wear?
Not the kind of the formal dress uniform that you see in movies where they're standing at guard with the formal dress. They look like soldiers. They're wearing flak vests. They're wearing helmets. Sometimes they're wearing the black goggles that I mentioned.
Yeah.
They look like soldiers, and they're heavily armed, and they're scary, and which is fine that they are. If people just don't want to go in anywhere near the embassy, that's fine. But it is a war, and as I said, they do serve a purpose. We just need to make sure that they're in the right chain of command, and that they're under the jurisdiction of some. The way it looks like it's forming, it's coming down, is they are going to be governed, or their jurisdiction will be the U.S. courts, not the military courts. So what would happen if there's a crime committed by one of these guards is they'll be extradited, as it were, from wherever they were back to the States, and then tried as any criminal would. But that's what they're talking about, and they actually have something like that in place now. But all the crimes that they're looking at were before we've put this into place, and they're slipping between the cracks, and we're not even sure. There hasn't been a case where we can say, is this going to work? Or are there loopholes that we don't know about yet still? How about that immunity that they were granted in their contracts going over there?
Exactly. What other places do you know of, Rob, that the Blackwater people are involved? I mean, besides protecting dignitaries, and I thought that was the job of the Diplomatic Security Agency, or DSN.
Right, and it is. It's what they're doing is they're a force multiplier, and when we need more than we have available, that's when we call Blackwater, and that's why we get Blackwater guarding dignitaries, even though we already have a force to do that.
Sure.
And that's why we have them going over to supplement the soldiers when we want something like a search. We take the soldiers who are guarding right now, and we move them into the combat zones as the soldiers who are fighting, and in their place we put the Blackwater guards. But in a war zone, it just all blurs. It's like trying to keep milk and water separate. So they're acting as soldiers, even if semantically they say they're not. I just heard that they moved 200 soldiers into Pakistan in the last maybe few weeks. So they're operating really everywhere. and they're also hired by foreign governments, which is really interesting.
So you've got our mercenaries working for other governments.
Exactly. Japan uses Blackwater Guard.
Oh, jeez. So we've got Blackwater basically around the world, and what a perfect opportunity for the CIA to get around.
I do a lot of Hollywood work. I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yes, I did, yeah.
And I'm working with Andrew Davis, who did The Fugitive,
yep,
and The Guardian and Collateral Damage and movies like that. And we're writing an original story, and it has to do with a Blackwater type organization. And because they're creating their own weapons and they're creating their own vehicles and they have their own helicopters and things like that, what if they got their own their hands on their own nuclear weapon?
All right, so now we know what the IMF force from Mission Impossible really was. We're talking about Blackwater. Listen,
and by the way, I should mention that Blackwater did recently change its name to Z, and it's interesting because Blackwater is almost synonymous with privatized armies, privatized guards. And how bad does your reputation have to be to change your name?
That's why I've never yet changed my name on air. I've always been Rob McConnell. Stand by, Rob. You and I have to take our commercial final break for this hour. Rob Liparulo is our special guest, www.robliparulo.com. I'm sorry, robertliparulo.com. We'll be back on the other side. That's if Blackwater doesn't get me first. Don't go away. Hey!
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My very special guest this hour is Robert Liparulo. We're talking about his new book entitled Deadlock. In fact, what we did over the commercials here, Melanie at Master Control was kind enough to contact Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. We have a few questions to ask him. I don't know how much time we have, but we'll certainly get a couple in before we get back to our special guest, Robert. Mr. Governor, my name is Rob McConnell.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice meeting you too, sir. When you were out, and were you ever part of Blackwater?
Affirmative.
You were, and did you enjoy your stay with Blackwater?
Negative.
Oh, okay. So you were with Blackwater. You didn't enjoy your stay with. What's the matter? The question is, do you think that private security firms like Blackwater should be able to be police officers, and if they are, what do you think they should be?
I'm a cop, you idiot.
Well, all right, you may be a cop, but don't you think that being a security guard, calling yourself a cop, is a little over the wall?
I took a bullet for you.
You did. Well, you may have not, but however, I don't think that security guards like Blackwater or any other agency should put themselves in the same category as members of our military.
You must be very proud of yourself.
Well, yeah, I am, especially since that, people like yourself, who has portrayed a mercenary. What's it make you feel like inside?
That's funny.
Well, it may be funny to you, Mr. Governor, but all I have to say is that.
Now, what does all that mean?
Well, what it means is that I think that there is a place for security. There is a place for law enforcement, and when it comes to people like Blackwater, what do you have to say? Finally,
that's enough. Goodbye.
All right, goodbye to you too, Mr. Governor. Oh, there you go. I couldn't get a straight answer out of him. Anyway, our special guest this hour is Rob Liparulo. First of all, Rob, thank you very much for being with us. It's been a great hour. You've raised a number of good points, and. Where do you see Blackwater 5 years from now? Are they going to be the rent-a-cops in RoboCop?
They might. Eric Prince, who owns the company and is the chairman now, claims that they're pulling back on that type of work, but I don't really see it. As I said, they just moved into Pakistan to take a gig there, if you will. Yes, they could very well be working right alongside our police, our security guards in malls, I imagine, even though I think that might be a little below them.
Me too. But we did ask the governor what the main purpose of Blackwater is, and this is his reply.
The most important thing is money.
All right, there you go. Robert, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. Take care of yourself. I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you. It was very fun to have you.
All right, robertliparulo.com. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. I'd like to thank my producer at Master Control, the one and only Melanie, for keeping us up on those 4 big birds in the sky, Galaxy 4R, Telstar 7, Aglia 2, and on satellite G3 and TalkStarRadio.com. And thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger, for joining us tonight. Well, that's it. Rob at X-Zone TV, thanks, buddy. Stephanie at XZoneRadio.com. Thank you, sweetheart, for your hard work. And to each and every one of you, thank you for allowing us to be part of your day or night, no matter where you are. I'm back tomorrow night at 10. Until then, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night now.